Hey, this is MJ, and in today's tutorial I'm going to be showing you how to make our updated Athabasca Falls pullover. The original yarn has been discontinued, so I've been looking at some nice substitutes for this pattern, and I settled on Mandala Ombre. This is a beautiful soft acrylic yarn. It's a worsted weight, and it has some really beautiful shades that I think you're going to love. So I'll be working with the color Cool in today's tutorial, and I'm just going to show you as well. There's 344 yards on a 150 gram ball, and we'll be using approximately 3 of these cakes to make our small sized sweater. You'll need 2 hook sizes for this pattern. So I'll be working with a 5 and a 6 millimeter. These are streamline hooks from Furls Crochet. Now the original pattern, I did use a 6.5 millimeter, but due to the difference in yarn, I felt that dropping down and tightening up the gauge a little bit was going to work better with this yarn that I've chosen for this pattern. So we'll begin with the smaller hook, which is our 5 millimeter. Put a slip knot on your hook, and we're going to start with a chain of 7. Now we'll work in the second chain from the hook a single crochet and single crochet through each chain across. Chain 1 and turn. Now you'll be working through the back loops only. Work a single crochet through the back loop and single crochet through the back loop of each stitch across. For a total of 6 stitches. Chain 1 and turn. Continue working single crochets in the back loop for a total of 84 rows. And this will be the collar of our sweater. It's going to be worked from the top down. A beautiful seamless design that is so quick and easy to work up. So you'll just want to keep working those single crochets through the back loop only. This band will work up really quickly, and it's a nice easy stitch to complete. So this is a great pattern for beginners or beginners new to garments. You do need to have your basic crochet skills to complete this pattern, but it is a very simple, easy construction, a good introduction to crocheting a sweater. So now a handy tip for counting your rows. I've crocheted 4 rows, and as you can see I have these 2 ridges. So if you push your work together, it will squish right together, and this counts as 2 rows and this counts as 2 rows. So that's just a helpful little tip when you're counting your rows to make sure you're on track. So I'm going to now crochet the rest of my collar off camera, and then I'll meet you back up for the next step. Okay, so once you've worked 84 rows, what we're going to do is chain 1. Now I also want to measure this for you, just so you have an idea. You can always tighten this up by using a smaller hook or using a larger hook if you would like the collar to work out a bit looser. So this isn't really doing anything with it. I'm not stretching it, just as is. It's around 20 inches. So now you're going to fold right sides together. My chain 1 is a little loose. Okay, so you're going to then go through the back loop, going across, and slip stitch through each stitch. Chain one, and then put the seam to the inside of your work. Now what you'll do is work a single crochet in every row around. So we have 84 rows. You'll want to work 84 stitches. Work through the first row, the second row, and then if you look closely, you'll notice that one of your rows sort of has a thicker end to it. And then the next row, you're only getting really a single loop. And this, if you just keep an eye for that as you go, it will keep you on track for working your single crochet stitches in your rows. And so you don't get too few or too many. So here's our thicker row. And then just that single loop. Okay, so work that all the way around, a total of 84. So once you've worked all the way around, we're going to slip stitch in our starting single crochet to join. And then you can change to your larger hook. I'm going to work with a 6mm. We'll begin with a chain 3. And work a double crochet in the same space. So this will be one of our corners, and now we're going to work across 17 stitches in double crochets. And this will be the sleeve section. So I've worked across 17. We're going to work a V stitch in our next stitch. To work a V, we'll do a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet, all in the same stitch. And when we refer to a V here and throughout the pattern, it will be a double crochet, chain 1, double crochet in one stitch. Now we're going to work the front section. And the front will be a total of 23 double crochet. So in each stitch across for a total of 23. So I've worked across 23 stitches, and I'll do a V in the next stitch. Double crochet, chain 1, double crochet. And now we'll do another sleeve section, so another 17 double crochet stitches. Okay, I've worked across 17. We'll work another V. And then we'll be working double crochets across the remaining stitches, which should be 23 for our back. Okay, so once you get all the way around now, we're going to slip stitch in our starting V to join. So I just want to explain the number of stitches in this round. So we started out with 84. You're going to have a total of 88 because in our corners, we now have 2 stitches. So not including our chain 1s, this round you will have 88. Now going forward, we'll be increasing 8 stitches every round because we will be working into our chain 1 spaces. So we've slip stitched, and now we're going to chain 3. And this counts as a double crochet in our chain 1, and then work a double in the same space. So this is our first corner. Then we're going to work across to the next V stitch. Now you want to make sure that you don't miss this first stitch. It can get covered by the V. And instead of having 17 stitches, we're going to have 19 this time. So it's always a good idea to keep track, and I will include a row by row stitch count chart in the PDF pattern that you can follow along with, just to make sure each section does stay on track. So there's 1, 2. So I've worked across 19. I'm coming to my chain 1 space, and you can always mark this with a marker if it helps you. So we're now working into that chain 1 a V stitch. So working a V stitch in the V. Okay, and again, you want to push your V stitch out of the way to make sure you don't miss this very first stitch. And this section will now be 25 stitches because the last round was 23. Okay, I've worked across 25, and now I'll work a V in the V stitch, and I'm going to continue in this manner, working around. Okay, and just always make sure you do not miss that. Really, I suggest keeping track of your stitch count for each section so that you don't mess up. That is my best tip I can give you, is just counting as you go. So as you're working across the back section, you're going to notice there's only stitches, 24 stitches, not 25. What we need to do is be working into the slip stitch, because that does account for our starting chain, which counts as a stitch. So what you'll do is place your last double crochet into the slip stitch. And going forward, make sure that you do your slip stitch nice and loose, and that will make it a lot easier to work into. So as we slip stitch, if we keep it loose so that the slip stitch almost looks the top here like a regular stitch, it will just make it easier to work into as you work around. So chain 3, double crochet to make your first V, and then you're just going to continue repeating round 2. So it's really simple. We stay working in double crochet, and we keep adding a V in every V. Each section goes up by 2 stitches each round. So this section will now go from 19 to 21. The front and backs go from 25 to 27. And just keep working. You can follow along with the free version on our blog, or you can purchase the ad-free PDF in one of our shops, and all of that will be linked in the description so you can see how many rounds to make for the size you're working on. You can also try it on as you go to get the right fit, whether you want it oversized or more fitted. You can alter the size you're working on based on that desired fit. So I suggest doing that and following along with the pattern for your desired size. So I'm going to keep working this now off camera, and I'll meet you back up for separating the body and sleeves. Okay, so I've been working away on my yoke, and you can see how beautiful it looks. And I have worked a total of 15 rounds for the small size, and my gauge, I've just checked it, and I have 13 stitches in 4 inches, and I have 8 rounds in 4 inches. So now we'll be separating our sleeves and our body. So I've slip stitched, and I'm going to change this slightly from my other pattern as well. So what I'm going to do, so I'm going to chain 4. I'm going to skip the sleeve section. I'm going to slip stitch in the next V. So you're going right across all of your sleeve till you come to your next V stitch. I'm going to slip stitch into that V, and I'm going to fasten this off. Then this is our front section. I'm going to come right over to the next V-stitch. I'm going to put a slip knot on my hook. Okay, I've joined into the V-stitch. I'm going to chain 4. Okay, and skipping over our next sleeve section here, we are going to join into the next V-stitch. So the next V-stitch you come to, and then I'm going to fasten that off. So now we're joined. We have our underarm chains. So this is our back, and you can try this on. So this is really easy to now try on to sort of feel the fit of this around the body and around the arms and our underarm chains. Okay, so now what we're going to do is this is our back section. So you're coming over to this first chain 4 that we did. And we're going to join at the underarm because it's just the most discreet place, but we're actually going to continue this next section just working in the round without joining. So you'll want a stitch marker. So I'm going to just leave a tail just in case I need to use that for any sewing, if there's any gapping. And I'm going to join into the third chain. So 1, 2, 3. That'll a tug. I'm going to chain 1. I'm going to work a double crochet in that same chain, in the next chain, okay, and then you can see the V here that we slip stitched into. Our second double crochet of the V stitch will be working into that, and I'm gonna just crochet over that tail here as I go. I've left that tail. I'll crochet over this one. So I'm going to work this all the way around, double crochet stitches. And when I get to my chain over here, you're just going to work right across it, 4 double crochets across the 4 chains and continue all the way around. We won't really need that stitch marker until we get around, so I'm just going to work my double crochets Okay, so I'm coming to my next V here where I have my chain 4. So I've worked the last double crochet in that DC of the V, and then we've joined into the chain 1 space. So now I'll continue to work across the chain in double crochet stitches. Okay, I've crocheted over that tail. Going to tighten this one up here as we come to that next chain one space of the V, and then we're double crocheting in that second DC of the V and continuing around. Then you'll want to weave in these tails that I'm crocheting over as well to make sure that they're nice and secure. Okay, so I'm coming around. Make sure that you get a stitch in your slip stitch here for that V. Maybe get it under the both of the loops there. So that should be 112, 113, 114 stitches when you go across those first two chains, or last two chains as you're coming to them. Okay, so now what we're going to do is, instead of joining, we're just going to keep going. So I'm going to work a double crochet right into that first stitch, and this is now where you can use your marker to keep track as you go. If you need to make any more increases, if you need the body of this to go bigger, you can always add some increases as you go. If you want to decrease for a more fitted waist, you can always add those as well. I'm going to show you how to do a decrease when we work the sleeves. So for this size, I'll now be working 114 stitches for the entire length of the body. I'm going to work as many rounds as I would like for. You could make it crop, you can make it hip length, you could even go to a tunic length if you want. This is where you can try it on as you go and get that right fit. You're going to have the band to add, so that adds a little bit of length, but you can still get a pretty good idea by trying it on for it to get the length that you want. So once you get all the way around, you're going to just keep moving the marker as you go. Work your first double crochet and mark it, and then just continue making your sweater the length that you want. Once I get my length completed, then I'll meet you back up to show you how to do the band. Okay, so I've been working on the body section, and you can just keep going until you get it the length you want. So I have, as you can see, I've kept moving my stitch marker, and it does shift as you go. So I'm going to count down from here: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18. I've done 19 rounds. So what I'm going to do now in my last stitch is work half double crochet, and then I'm going to work a single crochet, and I'm going to work a single crochet in each stitch around now. Okay, so once you get all the way around, I am going to slip stitch to join in the first single crochet. Now, because my join has shifted to the back, I'm not going to worry about the fact that it's not right under the arm. You could slip stitch across or join over here if you wanted, but I don't think you're going to really notice. So I'm just going to continue working my join as you go band from this spot. So you can then chain out the length that you want for your band. I am going to do it a little more than the collar. So I'm going to go with an 8-stitch band instead of 6. So I'm going to chain out 9, but you could even go to 10 and chain out 11. It's up to you. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So this gives you some flexibility as well to add some additional length to your sweater if you want to make this band wider. So then we're going to work single crochets back the second chain from the hook and each chain across with that smaller hook. Okay, and then you can see here's our first stitch that we slip stitched into. We're going to skip that one and slip stitch into the next 2. Then we'll turn. Here's our 2 slip stitches. We're going to skip them, 1, 2, and work single crochets in the back loop only. Okay, so keep track that you do stay with your 8 stitches because it is easy to lose a stitch when you're doing this. Chain 1 and turn, and continue single crochets in the back loop. Okay, so there's 8, and then always make sure that you see here, this one's been slip stitched into, so we need to go and slip stitch into the next 2. And you're just going to keep repeating this all the way around. So you're working this ribbed band and then we're joining it by slip stitching it across. Skip the 2 slip stitches and then continue. It's a really quick and efficient way to join a band. And once you've practiced doing it, it is really quick and simple to do. You're going to have the same number of rows as you have in stitches around the base of the sweater. Okay, so and you can count your ridges same way as we did with the collar. So 2, 4, I've done 5 so far. And I'm going to continue now working this off camera and then I'll meet you back up to finish it. So once you've worked the band all the way around, you should have 114 rows. For this size, we're going to fold the band together so that the right sides are facing. I've already chained 1 and then we'll just slip stitch the band together. So you're going through each stitch and just slip stitching it. Now you could also fasten off and just use your tapestry needle to sew this, but this way you can just continue with your hook slip stitching this together. It's fine either way. And then when you have this complete, you can fasten off and weave in your tails. I'm going to also show you now how to do the sleeve. So what I'm going to do is try and color match up. You don't have to do this step. I know it can be a little bit iffy whether you have enough yarn to do this. So if you really don't want to run out, you could not do this step and just join on with your new ball wherever your ball starts. You always have the option of looking at different balls that you have. This one is going from gray to brown. I've pulled out some of the light gray so that I'm hitting the brown with this one. The other ball that I have doesn't have a lot of the brown, so I chose this ball instead. So that's just some tips if you want it to look sort of going the same as the body section. So you want to get a slip knot, put that on your hook, and you're going to go to the underarm, and you have your 4 chains at the underarm. So we're going into the 3rd. So we're going to join our yarn in by pulling through. I'm going to chain 2. I'm going to leave my tail just in case I need it for any weaving. I'll work a double crochet in the same chain, the next chain, and you can see here, this is the V stitch that we slip stitched into, and here is that 2nd double crochet of the V. So we're just going to get working right around, working all in double crochets. Okay, so I've come all the way around. You can see here I've ended my last stitch in that 1st double crochet of this V. You can see here is where we've slip stitched into the chain 1 of the V. So now we're ending with 2 double crochet in those first 2 chains, the last 2. We're coming to, so I have a total of 51 stitches, and you can see I do have a little bit of gapping here, and you can use your tails to sew that in at the end whenever you see any little gaps, but it will be under the arm, so you're not going to notice it. Now, I am going to be joining because I'm doing decreases, and I just prefer to do it that way and know exactly where I'm keeping my join. So there's a couple things we're going to do to keep this join really straight as we work right under the arm. So we're going to do a reverse slip stitch join. And to do a reverse slip stitch join, you're going to keep the yarn to the front of your hook. So instead of going through the stitch with the yarn to the back, you're keeping the yarn to the front of the hook, and we're going from back to front through the stitch instead of front to back. So just like this, okay? So now the yarn is at this side. We're going to yarn under, pulling it through, and we're going to twist our hook away from us as we pull that through. Okay, so I'm twisting it away. You want to make sure you pull through and have both loops on the hook before you try to pull through for your slip stitch, or it can get tricky. So once you've got that pulled through, then you can just pull through to make your slip stitch. So now I'm going to chain 2. And when we do our decrease, we're only decreasing across the first 2 stitches, and that's also going to help to keep the join straight as we go. So to do a decrease, we're going to yarn over, go through the stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go through the next stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. So we've done 1 decrease, and then we'll work double crochets in every stitch around. So once you've worked all the way around, you should have 50 stitches. We're going to do another reverse slip stitch to join. So I'm going to keep the yarn to the front of my hook. I'm going back to front through the stitch, yarn under, pulling through, twisting to get my hook into position, and then pull through. I'm going to chain 2. So you have some different options on how you would like to decrease. So the pink sweater that I'm modeling, or the original yellow sweater that's being modeled, we decrease every 3rd round. This time I'm going to do the decrease every 2nd round, just to get the sleeve narrowed out a little bit more, just to show you the 2 different options. So this round will just be 1 double crochet in every stitch around. Okay, so I've worked all the way around. I'm going to reverse slip stitch to join, chain 2, and we're going to do another decrease. So yarn over, go through the stitch, pulling up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, go through the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 2, yarn over, pull through 3. And you are just going to keep doing this all the way down your sleeve. You can try on as you go, make it the length that you need. If you've got long arms, keep going until you get it long enough. If you have shorter arms, you can stop a little sooner. This pattern is very flexible to accommodate your arm length. So I am going to continue now working my sleeve off camera, and then I'm going to meet you back up to show you how to work the cuff. Okay, so I've been working on my sleeve, and I've worked a total of 30 rounds, and I've decreased every other round. So we have a total of 15 decreases. So we've gone from 51 stitches down to 36 stitches. Now what I'm going to do is another round of decreases. It's going to be worked in single crochet. So I'm going to chain 1 because I don't want this cuff this big. If you want to keep the cuff bigger, you don't need to do this step, but to cinch it in a little bit more, and you may want to do even more decreases with our bigger sizes to get a tighter cuff, and I'll add those notes into the pattern. So what we'll do is single crochet and then decrease the next 2. So pull up a loop, go through the next stitch, pull up a loop, yarn over, pull through 3. Single crochet in the next, single crochet decrease across the next 2. Okay, we're going to work this around. We'll be reducing to 24 stitches for this size. Once you get all the way around, we'll slip stitch to join, and then we're going to do the join as you go cuff. Just going to redo that. So I'm going to switch over to my smaller hook, so a 5mm, and I'm going to chain 9. Now you can chain as many as you like. If you need to make the cuff a little longer, or if you want to make it shorter, just reduce the chains or lengthen the chain. I'm going to work in the 2nd chain from the hook and work single crochets down the chain. So the cuff will be a total of 8 stitches. So this is going to be worked the same as we've worked the band. We'll skip the first stitch, slip stitch in the next 2, and then we're going to work single crochets in the back loop only. So we're skipping over the slip stitches, single crochet through the back loop. And so you'll have the number of rows that you have stitches. So we'll have 24 rows. one, and then you turn, working back down. So this is just like the band. We don't need to work through all of this. What you'll do is work all of your rows around for each sleeve, and then you'll slip stitch to join just the same as the band along the bottom. And slip stitch the next two.